Ben says, is it worth building organic only assets in high comp areas? Yeah, I mean, you can, as long as yes, you can build. Is it worth it? It can be, yeah, because if you get something ranked in a higher competition area, it's just an organic only asset. That's still that's very valuable, right? It's typically more valuable than ranking an organic only asset in a lower competition area. Not that you can't monetize that too. That's also valuable in a lower competition area. But in the higher competition areas, there you can typically fetch a higher price for, right? If you're going to sell leads from it or rent it out or whatever the case may be, if it's a higher competition area, companies are typically spending more in order to achieve results. So if you can rank a organic only asset in a high comp area, that's a valuable asset that you could monetize for usually a higher price than you could monetize an asset in a lower competition area. So of course it's worth it, in my opinion. But what I recommend is why go through the trouble of building organic only assets in high competition areas for lead gen or for sales tools or for whatever else if you can get traction significantly quicker or faster by building organic only assets in low competition areas, right? Because here's the thing, even if let's say you build a organic asset in a high competition area and you spend 3, 4, 5 months, let's say, 4 months. Say you spend 4 months working on it to get it to finally rank well. That doesn't have to be 100% ranked for all the search queries, everything else. Just you get a number of valuable pages for valuable search queries ranked in specific locations within a particular traditional service area or city or whatever it is that you're targeting. Now, you could use that to then market to companies in that area that provide those products or services and point to what you've already got and say, look, I'm already outperforming you for some of your products and services in some of the areas that you provide them. So I can do this for you. But here's the thing. So yes, you can monetize that and generally for more, but you're in a higher competition area. It took you several months to get results for your own asset. You can usually get better results faster for a client that has a verified GBP, has an established business with some history, all that kind of stuff. But you still know that it's a higher competition area. So even if you land that, let's say you close the client, you land them, right? And now you've got a higher competition campaign that you're going to be working on. And guys, any of you that have done SEO for any length of time for local businesses, local SEO, where you're selling your SEO services and marketing services to local businesses, when are you always in the most danger of losing the client? The initial period when you're trying to get them ranked. And so if you're targeting higher competition areas, then you're right back into that kind of stressful situation of, okay, now I close the client and now I'm under pressure to get them ranked within the time frame that I promised them. And during that time, you're always going to be in danger of being fired because clients, even if they initially upfront agree to that it could take 3 to 6 months. Let's just say that you disclaim that up front, you make sure that they're aware of it, and you get their buy-in before they even sign up for your retainer-based services or whatever else. Now it doesn't matter whether they agreed to it initially. Business owners have short memories, especially when they're paying money on a monthly basis and not seeing a return yet, right? So whether they agreed to, yes, I understand it's going to take 4 to 6 months for me to get results. Within those first 3 to 4 months, like they're ready to cancel at any moment. It happens all the time, unless you get them to sign a contract, and even then they could still want to cancel. I don't do contracts with clients. I just tell them month to month, but I tell them up front, like with tree service contractors, my guarantee is I'll get you within the Maps 3-pack across a 5.5 square mile area for your primary search query within 4 months, or else we'll continue working on it for free until it does. That way we have a guarantee, but it gives us 4 months and everything else. And so here's the thing. Do you think I want to go pitch my services to areas like Austin, Texas, or, uh, any of the major kind of big cities where it's going to be very difficult to get traction within 4 months? I'm not saying it can't be done, but it can be much more difficult. I can make that claim all day long in lower competition areas because I know for a fact I don't know for a fact, but I know that I have a very high likelihood of being able to achieve that without having to then work for free for months until I get them ranked, right? So I could meet the guarantee if I'm selective in which areas I'm targeting to promote that service with the guarantee. So that's all I'm saying is, like, it doesn't make sense to build organic only assets in high competition areas. Is it worth it? Well, it can be because you can monetize it for a higher price, but then you're right back to the same thing as if you just go pitch your services in high competition areas anyways, which is you're always going to be under pressure to perform, especially during that initial period where you're gaining momentum for the client. That's when you're always the most in the most danger of being fired or canned by the client because they haven't seen a return yet, right? So I prefer, and what I teach is to go target lower competition areas first, because then you know when you get a client in that area that they're also in a low competition area because you've already proven it to yourself by ranking organic only assets in that area. You know how quickly and how little work it took to get them ranked. So now you know when you land a client in one of those areas that it's going to be very similar in the lower amount of work and resources and attention and everything else that you would have to invest into that campaign to get it to perform. And why not just do that? So yes, you sell it for a less or monetize it for less, right? I'll charge a lower retainer value, sure. But it's an easy campaign to get performance in initially. It's an easier campaign to maintain over time. And so you can just make it up in volume. So instead of, again, think about this, guys. Would you rather have 5 clients paying you $5,000 a month? Or would you rather have, 25 clients paying you $1,000 a month? Think about it. So a lot of you might say, well, I'd rather have 5 clients paying me $5,000 a month. Well, I wouldn't, because number one, that generally, if you're charging $5,000 a month, you're probably in higher competition areas or industries or both, higher competition industries and in higher competition areas. Number two, if you lose any one of those clients, that's 20% of your revenue, just like that. So I prefer to have multiple clients that are easier to get results for, easier to maintain the results once we get them ranked, and less monetary investment from them so that they're not as concerned about it. Somebody paying $5,000 a month, oftentimes, now it depends. Sometimes larger companies, they don't even blink an eye. But the kind of companies that I work with smaller tree service companies, I've had tree service contractors that I've charged as much as $2,500 a month for. My average is $1,000 a month for tree service contractors, and it has been for several years. But I've had contractors that had large service areas or were in very competitive areas where we did charge significantly more. Those guys are always looking for reasons to complain about what they're spending. And I get it. I understand. And that's why, like I said, I'd rather stick with what is more acceptable as a retainer value, like an average retainer value for tree service contractors, which I have found is anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 a month, depending on the competition area and also how big their service area is. They don't tend to balk at that as much, right? Especially if you can get them results right up front, which is why I do like to do lead generation assets first before I pitch my services to them, so that I have already ranking assets to point to when I'm pitching my services in their area. I can say I've already got sites that are ranking for some of your services in some of the areas that you serve, and I can do that for you. And then I sign them up for lead gen or retainer-based services, and then I'll assign the local lead gen asset to them. And I can, so that they initially have leads coming in from my lead gen asset while I'm working on getting their business and their website, their GBP ranked, if that's clear. So I'd rather make it up in volume with a lower monetary value because it's easier to get results, easier to maintain, and less likely for the client to be concerned about it if they are, not spending as much, especially if you have some assets that can produce results for them when you first sign them up, which is why the organic assets are good to have. You won't get a lot of leads for those, but something's better than nothing is my point. So anyways, a good question. Moving on.